Hello, live from New York City. It's the Dream Shakers podcast. I'm your host, Stefan Odom, here with my co-host,
George Nunez.
and we're back for the 26th episode of the pod. Today, we have Evan Leaphart, a Miami-based entrepreneur who is currently the founder slash CEO of Kiddie Kredit, the co-founder of the Black Men Talk Tech Summit, an advisory board member of Miami EdTech, and finally, a cohort 6 alum from Founders Gym. Evan has had a broad set of entrepreneurial experiences and is now fully focused on ensuring that the next generation of youth have the tools and resources to build a thorough understanding of credit so that they can effectively leverage credit as adults. Now, without further ado, welcome to the show, Evan.
How's it going, guys?
How are you, Evan?
I'm good.
How's everything? How are you feeling right now?
I'm good, man. It's a Saturday. It's a weekend. It's a little light for me today. Yeah, long week. I'm a
Perfect.
little tired, but I'm good. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you on. We understand that you are a man of a mission or a man on a mission. So let's get straight into it.
Yes, sir.
And let's talk about your background, your upbringing. We have a full understanding that you were born in Pittsburgh, moved around to Baltimore, and then ended up in Miami. Talk about that transition. Talk about what it was growing up. Just lay it all on us. We would love to learn more.
Yeah. So I grew up. I definitely was. I spent the majority of my child forming years in Maryland, but I was born in Pittsburgh. Forever a Steelers fan. Um, That'll never change. I could tell you about first, second, and third string Steelers players. Spent a year in Gary. It's where my mom's side of the family's from, Gary, Indiana. Fun fact, so my grandma and granddad, their names are Joe and Catherine. Michael Jackson's parents' names are Joe and Catherine, both born in Gary, Indiana. So I don't know, it's just a fun fact.
So you were destined to be great, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. I'm trying to find the correlation between like how I there's like some Michael Jackson thing there, but won't go down that rabbit hole. And then I grew up in Maryland, right outside of Baltimore, in a city called Columbia. And then I moved to Miami in 2004. And I came here. I originally attended FIU, didn't finish, but my major was entrepreneurship. So I guess I did what I set out to do when I was younger.
Okay, fair is fair. So you head out to Miami. You have this interest in entrepreneurship. That's
Mhm.
completely fair. What gets you then interested in ed tech and this broader world that you're now residing in?
It was, it really was centered around me always wanting to do Kiddie Kredit, right? Like it wasn't, my journey in tech was not it wasn't linear, right? Like my whole reason for even creating it in the first place was I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship and it being one of the major catalysts to addressing the wealth gap that we have in our country. So it's like, but with that, we need to really teach about credit beforehand. So that way we can have entrepreneurs on all income levels be able to have access to the capital that they need to be able to start their business. That could be a business loan or line of credit. Friends or family rounds are not always a thing. So just understanding that, I was like, we need to teach about credit from a younger age. But I had Kiddie Kredit in my head for about 10 years, owned the domain name for a long time, wasted a lot of money just owning it because I was like, one day I'm gonna do this app. And then I went down this journey about 4 years ago. But entrepreneurship, I had many businesses here in Miami, a lot more mom and pop type of things, auto transport, cleaning business, had a lead generation business at one time, t-shirt company, custom dress shirts. So forever the entrepreneur. So I guess through the lens of entrepreneurship, that led me towards Kiddie Kredit. But yeah, like me being knee deep in the tech space like I am now, that journey started like 4 years ago.
Prior to the call, we did mention, Steph and I, that we constantly do our due diligence. And on a recent article, we noticed that you said that you wanted to pave the way for others because you endured financial struggles in getting loans or help building your credit, right? And so you didn't want this current generation and either future generations to go through the same mistakes you did. Um, so could you talk about what were those financial burdens? How did you overcome it? And what is Kiddie Kredit exactly? How does it generate revenue so that the viewers and the audience understand and they get a better perspective on it? I think I see you're slick, but I get it. I see the panda in the background. I see the logo of the Kiddie Kredit. We see it, but can you talk more about it?
I'll give him the mic in a minute. So first part of that was, well, so the Kiddie Kredit, but then prior to that, because I can get into that, essentially like what inspires me to, I'm sorry, just to bring back that part of the question.
Yeah, like kind of like what inspired you to focus on this mission of credit or teaching credit? Because you talked about you talked numerous times through different media on how you struggle with your financial burdens yourself in terms of getting loans and building your credit. Like at one point you had poor credit. So could you talk into that? Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, like how I got through that. So I mean, it was honestly all trial and error. Like I understand credit because I saw what moved the score up and what moved it down. Right. I didn't read a book. And just in learning that, I learned so much that I help my friends out informally, right? Like they're just like Evan, like I have friends that are millionaires, and then they'll hit me up and be like, man, my score just plummeted. Like, what's going on? Like, clearly they can pay every bill that comes their way, but then they're like, I'm like, well, what did you do? And they're like, I didn't do anything, man. All I did was close the card from college. I'm like, there it is. You just destroyed the average age of your accounts. So it's the little intricacies of credit that we don't understand. And what I always try to make sure that we're doing is focusing on we're trying to uplift the importance of the conversation of credit, right? Like it's my whole why for Kiddie Kredit. What happens is, I mean, there's a lot of things, great products out right now that they're doing things to teach you about how to save, how to invest, to give you a debit card, et cetera, et cetera. Laundry list companies, all doing well. But what we're trying to say is credit needs to be its own conversation, right? Like it gets lumped into this one, like financial literacy. Like first off, what is that? But then we need to really just say like credit is its own conversation within that topic. Like we don't just say school, right? Like you have different subjects within school that have their own curriculum and they're like their own dedicated time frame to learn about. So we just try to be focused on teaching about credit and doing it for kids. And in doing that, it becomes a secondary teaching tool for adults. How do we make money, right? So when we really look at the audience that we built this for, it's not necessarily the audience that needs to pay monthly for anything else, right? So we wanted to have a monetization strategy that allowed, sure, the parent can afford something to be able to come in and pay for premium features once we have those rolled out, which will be shortly. But more than anything, our business model is B2B to C. And the main reason for that is it gives us a way to be able to provide the best version of the app possible to an audience that shouldn't pay for anything else. From a business structure, it's lower user acquisition costs. It's also a secondary organizational push towards engagement. Any app, we all have those engagement challenges that we try to work through. And what the organization is able to do, kind of why would they pay? First off, it's a low barrier to entry. Pricing starts at $50 per year per family unit as of now. But it gives them the ability to add a activity, task, chore to the family chore board, right? So something that could drive engagement back to the particular organization itself. So like we have YMCA as clients, Equifax Foundation, we're working with partners with Equifax. So that's essentially how it works.
So this path, this journey with Kiddie Kredit was very self-driven. You realized that there was a hole in the market that just needed to be filled, right? So what were those early days of Kiddie Kredit like, and how did you initially get the concept off the ground? Did you code it yourself? Did you lean on close friends or contractors? What did the day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so it started again, like I knew exactly what it would look like for a long time in my head, but it was in my head, you know. And uh, when the one day a buddy of mine, Matt Cohen, who's on our team now too, he had built an app before. It's called Roll Random, super cool app. It was like a social network for ravers, and it had like over 100,000 users. He's a non-technical founder, so we really related on that. And we just, over pizza and beers, over a couple days, we just ended up like really mapping out the wireframes. I think we used proto.io to do it. And I always recommend that people take this path, that you focus on, like before you just say, hey, go to app developer and say like, hey, I want to build the app. Like that's the worst thing you could do, because you're gonna spend an incredible amount of money for things that you could have just done yourself, right? Let's say your developer is 100. Let's say it's even if it's like $50 an hour or less. The time that you don't have anything flushed out is time that you're paying them to think. You shouldn't pay people for what they're there for. Is advice that I always give, right? Like you don't want to pay your designer to come up with the brand strategy, right? Like you should essentially say, like, this is what this is. Now I need you to do what you do. So, so long story short, so we built out the wireframes. We then had our design team, like make them look pretty. And then we went to our app developer, our CTO now, and just said, look, this is a clickable prototype. This is how it functions. So all we really paid him to do was develop. Right? Like there was he didn't have to be creative in terms of like, oh, it should look like this, or it should function. Like we flushed out a lot of that stuff. So that was essentially what got that process off the ground. And that was 2018 that we really fleshed out that prototype.
So diving a bit deeper on the Kiddie Kredit system in terms of like how, the credit is measured for the kids. How can they build it? How can they lose it? I know that there's chores involved. Touch on that, and how does it relate to the traditional FICO scoring system?
Yep. So it's what we intend to do is create a parallel universe towards solid habits and the mechanics of a credit score, right? So chores, and it doesn't have to be chores. It can be a simple activity, just something that is a task, whatever, right? But the way it works is the better you do those assigned tasks, chores, activities, the better your credit score. So think of a missed chore like a missed payment. The longer you've had a chore, like the longer you've had a credit card, you get reward points on a weekly basis, which are called bamboo bucks. Anytime you're saying, hey, mom, can I get this? Hey, dad, can I get this? Think of it like an inquiry, right? So what we're trying to do is, and we simplify it so that your Kiddie Kredit score is on a scale of 0 to 100, right? And we're doing that to simplify it, right, for a younger audience. But then what we're finding is that in doing that too, we're also simplifying how it's understood for adults, right? So if they're able to explain to their kids like what causes their score to go up or down, they'll actually know how their own score goes up or down. And that's the whole method behind the madness.
And the rewards that the children get, is this in the form of like, what are some of like the common things that you've seen parents provide children through the app?
TV time, later bedtime, allowance if the parent can afford to, or if they believe in it, right? Like I didn't get allowance. Like I got lunch money, but my allowance was the roof over my head. I actually use this time to say, like, I didn't always, that was what I did with my lunch money. I used to save it. So I used to go around the cafeteria. It's a fun story. And I had, like whoever, I knew who didn't eat their pizza. I knew who didn't eat their fries, and I knew who didn't drink their chocolate milk. And I was able to save lunch money and then pocket my lunch. I was scrappy. I was, but yeah, that was, sorry, that I really just thought about that in my head. I hadn't thought of that for quite some time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're completely all right. And scrappiness is actually a good thing because it leads right into our very next question. So based on those earlier experiences that you just spoke about, right, around entrepreneurship, around these initial forays into this space, were there any lessons that provided valuable insight as you built Kiddie Kredit, right? Like from those experiences that carried over?
Yeah, I mean, it's in building this, you're only going to go as far as your team, right? So, like as much credit as I get for this project, like it wouldn't be where it is without a dope team around you. And so what I've learned is how to deal with people, you know. I think that's the probably one of the most overlooked things, period. I think we get caught up in what we're trying to do personally, that we don't realize that it doesn't work if it doesn't connect with the people. And it's also not going to work if you can't connect with the people trying to build it. So people management is something that I've learned over time.
Congrats on the successes thus far. Congrats on being a finalist for the Wealth Gap pitch competition. We saw the news. How was that experience? And walk us through your prep in terms of getting ready for something major like that.
Yeah, so it's been a cool run for us this past 2 months. I think won like 8 pitch competitions. But and not saying that to just be like, I won 8. I guess I am sort of. But more than anything, what I realized was that because I wasn't winning pitch competition for like a while. It was like, this is the coolest thing out of all of these companies, great companies too, but like it was more like, what am I doing wrong? And what I realized is I had a whole paradigm shift between, like, I had a pitch deck and I thought the pitch deck was dope. So I more so pitched to the pitch deck. And I was like, when you're telling a pitch, you're telling a story. So I threw that out the window and I just typed, like, if I was to just tell a story of Kiddie Kredit and then, yes, talk about the team and the traction and what we're doing in a story form, I think that would be better. And then so once I did that, I tailored my pitch deck to the story. And that was the biggest shift for me. So how I prepare for it. I mean, I pretty much know what I'm going to say now, but I also I adjust it in formats, right? So if I have a minute to pitch to you, I know what to say. If I have 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't have 20 minutes down yet, but I got the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10.
And building off of that, we also saw that your company was selected by Verve Capital. So again, another round of congratulations there. So we know that Verve Capital focuses on early stage companies, but why do you think this was such a great fit?
So for all of our investors at this point, it's been really fortunate, right? Like, there's the cautionary tales about like just accepting money. And along this way, I've received investment offers, but it was kind of like the catch with it was like the price was too high for me to say yes to that, right? And then that's not necessarily the people you want. Like everybody that's an investor now, people I could call, ask for advice. It's definitely turning out to be like the dream team that you want, right? Like, people that when I am pitching to investors, like for me, it's all about 3 different buckets. It's either understanding my journey as an underrepresented founder, a belief in the Miami tech ecosystem. I've been here before, it was cool. And then lastly, just the understanding of the mission. Those have always been like my 3 pillars, and all of them check either two of the boxes, if not all three. So it's been cool.
Miami tech ecosystem. Let's stay right there. The mayor of Miami put out that tweet a while back that he needed help bringing the tech hub to the city. You stepped in, one of the people to step in. What was that conversation like? And what are your thoughts on the future tech hub or tech ecosystem in Miami?
I was about to say, I didn't step in. Like, yes, I got us, I'll take it. No, like it was cool to see it happen. You know, I've always said that when you have, you know, COVID has really like accelerated the pace of remote work. And my theory about Miami for quite some time was that I've always felt that remote work was, you know, the numbers would continually increase. And with that, people are just going to work where they want to live. And if you just take out like your occupation and just overall environment, Miami will always be a top option, right? A lot of people don't realize that our summers here are pretty terrible. I'm actually, it may seem like things are calm here, but my AC is broke right now. It's hot. It's like 82 in the crib. It's bad.
Damn.
Like, but we're making it.
If it helps you feel any better, it gets muggy in New York as well. So it's definitely brutal summers here as well.
Yeah, but your AC is on, so just be grateful. No, I think with Miami, it's cool to see it. You know, with what we need more than anything is we need to make sure that everything we do is collaborative and inclusive. You know, we don't want kind of like the old heads versus the new heads. You know, we definitely don't need that, like, oh, you're a newbie. But we also don't need the Christopher Columbuses. Like, I discovered Miami, it's been here. So just figuring that all out. I look at it like, you know, my key metric to focus on is when we look at this moment, because it's definitely a moment. And I don't mean in terms of like a flash in the pan. I mean, it was like there's a definitive kind of start point to where things took off for tech in Miami. And I do think it's here to stay. But when we look back on it in 5 years, like, how did we move the needle for, like how did we reshape what tech can be in a new city, right? Like, we don't need this to be Silicon Valley. Like, Silicon Valley is not a place where, you know, a significant amount of Black founders are able to, you know, to thrive just in terms of sheer numbers. I know there's, you know, outliers and examples, but just if you look at the percentage of people versus what are getting funded, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to make sure that we do better at that, right? So it's like, if take me out the equation, just like your average, not average, like your fantastic starting up Black founder, like that had a tech company, like did they find it easier to get access to capital here in Miami? Did they feel that they had a large enough voice at the table? Did they even have a seat at the table? Like, that's the type of stuff that I care about when you talk about it as an ecosystem. I think for me, like selfishly, for a founder in my company, I mean, it's you know, it's definitely been helpful that being here for quite some time makes it easier to access. I think I have an easier access point to a lot of people that I don't know if I would have if I had just moved to New York or if I had just moved to the Bay. So I'm very appreciative of that.
How long you think, and if we're talking about time or duration, to where Miami will be a respected tech hub, or the tech hub is here to stay in Miami? And the reason why I say that is because there's been rumors saying like, oh, it's a trendy move. People are moving there just because they're following a trend, or older investors, to your point, are retiring in Miami. So it makes more sense for those VC investors to move to Miami. And they're not as respected as Austin, because I guess more tech companies are moving out there, or Atlanta, which like the Black tech population is growing. So how long before you think Miami really gets that head nod in that sense of respect?
Those are great examples one. I love Austin as a city. I was just in Atlanta. We have YMCA Atlanta as a client. So I was out there doing a demo, but like, I really love what Atlanta's doing. I had a chance to connect with a gentleman by the name of Jay Bailey. He runs the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship. I hope I got that right.
Yes, I definitely added him on LinkedIn not too long ago.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like a 54,000 square foot facility. It's close to Clark, Atlanta, Spelman Morehouse. And then Joey Womack with Goodie Nation, one of the best like ecosystem builders I've seen. But I think with Miami, it's, it just goes back to the people, company, right? Like if 4 unicorns were built in Des Moines, Iowa next year, they're a tech hub. You know what I mean? So it's like, it'd be undeniable. So, it's just be successful. The money will follow. But yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that we will be on par with that. It's just really about like, when we do that, like what are we doing with it besides just money?
That sense of higher purpose is critical. And I think a potentially a key aspect of why you and your co-founders, got into Black Men Talk Tech. So can you provide, what do you believe is the organization's greatest strength in regards to preparing the next generation of Black entrepreneurs for success?
Yeah, I think because we focus on 3 components of it, but we start with the founders, right? Like the founders drive everything, but we try to connect founders with investors and also with technologists. It's what I find pretty cool is, so, also I'm a scout for VC out here called Florida Funders, but when I see companies that are getting funded, and it could be a pre-seed or it could be a seed, it's like, man, I saw them pitch like 2 years ago, So it's like, man, if I was VC, I'd have some super early deal flow and like insight and stuff, But I think what we do best is we try to put forth content that is super relevant and timely for founders that are, at a certain stage. And I mean, that could be pre-seed, you could still be doing an angel round, friends and family, or maybe not even raising at all. But like, you're beyond setting stuff up on LegalZoom, So I think if we just stay with that theme in mind, and then, we find ways to continually put boots in the ground in additional cities, we'll be fine. And, we started this off the backs of the Black Women Talk Tech team, which is amazing. So, we're in good hands. They've given us a good roadmap on how to proceed forward.
Got it. What's the ultimate goal for Black Men Talk Tech? Do you guys plan to scale all throughout the US? Do you guys want to scale globally? Like how far does Evan and Boris, shout out Boris, spoke with him a couple months back. How far do you guys want to grow this thing?
Yep, and don't forget AJ.
AJ as well, definitely.
But I think time will tell. I mean, we're definitely going to new cities, doing some cool stuff in Atlanta. It would be nice to, wherever I travel, there's a chapter there. Man, that would be fire. So I think I'm gonna say globally because I would selfishly like to just have reasons to just travel. So, Black Men Talk Tech Week. Let's get to Bali. Let's see. Let's figure it out. Let's get to Cairo. But no, I think we'll. The time will tell on where that goes.
I also saw that you recently got married.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I see you heard you. How is it managing all of the things that you got going on while being a husband? I know that's not an easy thing, right? So how is it managing everything and managing your time effectively?
One, more like more important than like myself, it's your partner. You know, they have to understand what you're going through. But beyond that, I mean, like it really takes a special person to like put up with a founder. You know, I think when you're a tech founder, like there's no on or off. I said this the other day. It was like, you know, we work 9 to 5s, but it's not 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's probably 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. You know, so like just having somebody that understands that is key. I mean, but then your responsibility as the founder is to make sure that you're doing enough to like kind of put it down, turn it off for a second, even if it's a second, right? Like I'm always on my phone, always. But like I try to have like moments where it's like it'll be like a 10 to 15 minute window. Like it's like, okay, you can check it every 15 minutes. That way things don't just get out of hand. It's like, and then within that 15 minutes, you're completely present. So I think just in the small pockets of time that you have, just try to be present. That's what I've found works. It may not work, you know. That's my wife. She'd be like, I'm doing a horrible job, but I'm trying.
Got it. Got it. So we're currently at the point of the interview where we ask you the final question. So, you know, here at Dream Shakers, we're all about paying it forward. So what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give your younger self?
One, delegate, not just passing things on. I think people do that too early. They're like, like, you know, phone rings 3 times a day. Like, I need an assistant. Like, it's not what I'm saying. Like, figure out what you're good at, and then what, like, don't try to be like all things. Would be one. And talking about being all things, I think 2 would be, you know, don't try to be too many things for too many people. You know, like if you can't bring forth the best version of yourself, like you're not gonna be good for anybody. You know, it's good to give 100% of yourself to 10 people than 10% to 100. I think that math is right. But the that would be number 2, and then number 3, just like continue going, but like, you know, there's no shortcuts, and you know, just do right by people. Like the best opportunities that I've had come forth in my life, and I had some great ones, it's really been only because the people that connected me to that, but you know, that opportunity knew what type of person I was, right? So you might get places quick by taking shortcuts and, like, you know, burning bridges or doing whatever it is. But if you just, at the end of the day, try your best to do right by people, it'll pan out, and it'll pan out more comfortably.
Well, that was the end of the interview. We definitely appreciate you. Thank you for dropping so many gems and being who you are, being your authentic self, and being a dream shaker. That's all we have, and we hope to have you on future episodes. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all.